The irony of the situation is undeniable. Robert De Niro, who's been outspoken in his criticism of conservative politicians on TV, now finds himself facing the consequences of his own words in court. For years, De Niro has been a prominent voice in Hollywood, never hesitating to call Republicans dangerous, extreme, and even crazy. But now, he's no longer speaking to a studio audience. Instead, he's standing before the court, trying to maintain his composure, but his voice trembles, and his hands shake. The spotlight has shifted from the stage to a much more serious setting, and the person forcing him to answer? Karoline Leavitt, a determined and unyielding politician, now holding the reins in a defamation lawsuit that De Niro never saw coming. Leavitt has brought forward what seems like an innocent comment from De Niro, a comment that quickly escalated into a full-blown media storm and, ultimately, an $800 million defamation suit. What De Niro once thought of as harmless sarcasm is now being used against him, and this time, he doesn't control the narrative. The courtroom has become the stage, and De Niro is no longer in charge. But before we dive into this intense showdown, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you can stay updated on all the latest stories. That night, the Spotlight studio on CBS was alive with energy, bright lights, a charged atmosphere, almost like a battlefield. Political and cultural figures often came to clash here, but this time, the stakes were even higher. All eyes were on the two guests, Karoline Leavitt, a representative of the MAGA movement and the Trump administration, and Robert De Niro, the Hollywood Nas, star known for his unapologetic attacks on Trump and his supporters. No one expected that their exchange would lead to a defamation lawsuit that would capture national attention. The host, Alex Harper, a seasoned provocateur, opened with a smile, clearly ready to stir the pot. Miss Leavitt, welcome to the spotlight. You're the youngest press secretary in history for President Trump. What's your role, and how do you handle criticism from the media? The audience clapped, but there was an undeniable tension in the air. Whistles echoed from the crowd, especially from De Niro's fans, who were eager for some reaction. Leavitt, standing tall in a striking pink suit, responded confidently. Thank you, Alex. I'm here to represent President Trump's America First message. We're focused on building a strong economy, securing borders, and pushing back against the lies from the liberal media. They're nothing but a propaganda machine, but I'll speak the truth whether they like it or not. The audience erupted in applause, but boos rang out from a corner of the room, mostly from De Niro's side. The camera shifted focus to him, and Harper didn't miss a beat. Mr. De Niro, Miss Leavitt called the media a propaganda machine. As someone who's worked within the industry, what's your take on that? Harper asked, his tone suggestive. De Niro, dressed in a sharp black suit, leaned forward, his eyes locked on Leavitt. I don't care about the media, he replied, his voice low but firm. What I care about are people like her, Trump's young puppets. No experience, no credibility, just spreading dangerous lies. You're a threat to democracy, Miss Leavitt. You and your entire generation. The studio was buzzing with energy. Some audience members clapped enthusiastically, while others whistled in protest. The camera zoomed in on Karoline Leavitt, but she didn't flinch. Her lips curled ever so slightly in a hint of a smile, and Harper, sensing the rising tension, pushed forward. Ms. Leavitt, Mr. De Niro just called you a threat to democracy. How do you respond? Leavitt took a breath, her gaze sharp and focused. Mr. De Niro, she began, her voice calm but cutting. I'm not here to be insulted by someone using their Hollywood fame to smear anyone who disagrees with them. I represent millions of Americans who believe in President Trump. You, however, only represent your own ego. The room went quiet, tension thick in the air. Scattered applause from MAGA supporters broke out, but the majority of the crowd leaned in De Niro's direction, their gaze on him as he smirked dismissively. De Niro pointed at Leavitt, his voice rising with force. You talk about America, but you're just a young girl, fresh out of school, propped up by Trump as a figurehead. You don't understand democracy or responsibility. You just follow orders. His words landed hard, sparking an eruption in the audience. Some cheered, others booed. Harper stepped in to try and restore order. "All right, let's calm down," he said, but Leavitt raised her hand, signaling she wasn't done. "Mr. De Niro," she said, her voice now colder than before, "I don't need to justify my qualifications. I was appointed because I get results, not because of my age or appearance, as you're implying. You may have an Oscar, but that doesn't give you the right to defame others on national television. If you want to talk about responsibility, start with yourself." The studio erupted again, this time split between applause and boos. De Niro, clearly taken aback by Leavitt's steel, shook his head and muttered under his breath, "She doesn't get it." Harper, seeing the situation escalate, attempted to change the subject. "Thank you both for this lively exchange. We'll be back after the break," he announced. But no one could look away from the silent standoff between Leavitt and De Niro. Their gaze remained locked, as if the battle wasn't over yet. As the show paused, some MAGA supporters stood, clapping and shouting, "Karoline! Karoline!" Meanwhile, De Niro's fans whispered criticisms, one of them loudly remarking, "She's just a puppet." The segment went viral on social media within hours, quickly becoming a trending topic with millions of views. The MAGA community hailed Leavitt as a conservative firebrand. One post read, "Karoline Leavitt silenced De Niro. This is the new MAGA generation." But De Niro's fans, along with liberal media, defended him, calling Leavitt an opportunist. One mocking post read, "She just graduated and dares to take on De Niro? Laughable." Another viewer wrote, "De Niro's right, she's a threat." The conflict reached new heights when De Niro doubled down on CNN. "She's a product of Trump's system," he said, staring directly into the camera. "A young person who, knows nothing about the world, just following orders. People like her are more dangerous than Trump because they're young and ambitious." But instead of backing down, Leavitt stayed calm. She didn't respond on social media or TV as many expected. Instead, she worked quietly with her legal team, gathering evidence, footage from the Spotlight segment, De Niro's past interviews, posts, and comments from the audience. Everything that could show the negative impact on her reputation after the fiery clash. In the midst of the viral social media frenzy, Karoline Leavitt didn't let herself get caught up in the whirlwind of debates or emotional interviews. While the public buzzed with viral clips, she kept her focus on the bigger picture. After the Spotlight confrontation, Karoline Leavitt retreated backstage. But she wasn't backing down. Instead, she turned the media storm into a chance to strike. Back with a sharp strategy. Leavitt understood that De Niro's words weren't just a personal attack, they were aimed at the entire MAGA movement. So she decided to respond not with more words, but with something stronger. The law. Right after the show, Leavitt returned to her White House office, her pink suit still pristine, but her eyes burning with resolve. She immediately called an urgent meeting with her advisors, including Sylvia Martinez, a lawyer known for turning lawsuits into powerful political statements. Martinez had worked with Trump before and was the perfect person for the task. "We can't let De Niro and Hollywood keep smearing people like me without consequences," Leavitt said, her voice low but filled with determination. "This isn't just about me. It's about millions of Americans they call dangerous just for their beliefs." Martinez nodded, recognizing the opportunity. This lawsuit could not only be a legal victory, it could send a powerful political message. "We'll make them feel the impact of their words," she said. "This could hit them where it hurts." Within hours, Martinez and her team were already drafting a plan. They proposed an $800 million defamation lawsuit targeting De Niro, CBS, the broadcaster of the Spotlight, and any media outlet that had amplified his attacks. "We need to prove that De Niro didn't just speak recklessly," Martinez explained. "He intentionally damaged your reputation with real consequences on your career." Leavitt agreed but added, "I want this to send a message. No one, especially not a Hollywood star, gets to destroy someone without facing consequences." The team quickly got to work, collecting evidence from the Spotlight segment. Every frame was analyzed, Every word De Niro had spoken was scrutinized. Phrases like young puppet and threat to democracy were key, and they didn't stop there. They also gathered interviews, including the CNN segment where De Niro had said Leavitt was more dangerous than Trump. These statements, Martinez argued, weren't just personal insults. They were part of a systematic smear campaign aimed at damaging Leavitt's credibility as press secretary. To strengthen the case, Leavitt worked with Ethan Cole, a data analyst, who had worked on MAGA campaigns, and his team. They combed through social media, collecting thousands of related posts, from mocking comments like, "She's just Trump's puppet," to malicious ones like, "She's unfit to be press secretary." They found a clear pattern. De Niro's words sparked a wave of attacks that hurt Leavitt's reputation and career opportunities. But the real turning point came when Martinez's team received a leaked internal email from De Niro's entourage. The document, provided by a disgruntled staffer, showed that De Niro's manager, Greg Palmer, had been actively pushing him to target Leavitt. "She's the perfect target, young, vulnerable, and it'll make you stand out in the anti-Trump crowd," Palmer had written in the email. An assistant agreed. "Hitting her will get a lot of attention." "This is gold," Martinez said, recognizing the significance of the evidence. The email proved that De Niro's attacks weren't spontaneous. They were a deliberate effort to smear Leavitt and elevate his own image. Leavitt, reading the email, gave a cold smile. "They thought I was easy prey," she said to Martinez. "They were wrong." To further strengthen their case, Leavitt and her team prepared internal White House documents. They gathered reports on successful press briefings, media campaigns she had led, and letters of commendation from colleagues, including Elise Stefanik. These documents were crucial to refuting De Niro's claims that Leavitt was unqualified, or just a figurehead following orders. Martinez emphasized, "We'll show the court that Miss Leavitt is not just a victim. She's an exceptional politician who was attacked for her political beliefs." As the lawsuit took shape, Leavitt faced significant pressure. Liberal media outlets from CNN to the New York Times called the lawsuit a political stunt and claimed that Leavitt was using the legal system for personal revenge. De Niro's fans also criticized her, with one comment saying, "She's suing De Niro just for fame," while others mocked her for thinking she could take down a legend. But Leavitt remained resolute. She received support from President Trump, who called her personally. "Karoline, you're doing the right thing. Don't let Hollywood intimidate you," he told her. Despite the challenges, having just returned to work after giving birth, Leavitt worked tirelessly with Martinez and Cole. Late nights were spent reviewing every detail of the lawsuit. The battle was just beginning, but Karoline Leavitt was more determined than ever to make sure De Niro and Hollywood understood that actions have consequences. Leavitt knew this case wasn't just about protecting her reputation. It was about setting a crucial precedent. Powerful stars like De Niro couldn't be allowed to recklessly smear others without consequences. When Martinez presented the draft complaint live on Reddit, she spoke with a steady confidence. "I want the world to know that neither youth nor loyalty is an excuse to destroy someone," she declared. "We will make De Niro answer for his actions." Meanwhile, in his lavish Manhattan apartment, De Niro paced anxiously, his face tight with stress as his advisors tried to calm him. His manager, Greg Palmer, whose leaked email had turned the tide in Leavitt's favor, maintained a hopeful tone. "Bob, you're an icon," Palmer said, placing a reassuring hand on the ebony table. "This is just Trump's political game. The public's behind you. We'll get through this." But De Niro, with bloodshot eyes from sleepless nights, was no longer so sure. "You said she'd be easy to handle," he snapped, his voice thick with frustration. "Now I'm in court because of that damn email." De Niro's legal team, led by veteran attorney Victor Russo, proposed a defense strategy built around the idea of free speech, arguing that De Niro's statements should be protected. However, Russo whispered a caution. "That email shows malicious intent. We need to prepare for the worst-case scenario." As the trial date drew closer, both Leavitt and De Niro felt the pressure. Leavitt, backed by MAGA and her unwavering resolve, prepared to enter the courtroom as a trailblazer. De Niro, once an untouchable Hollywood icon, now faced the very real possibility of losing everything. The atmosphere in the New York federal courtroom was tense, like the calm before a storm. The gallery was packed with reporters from CNN and Fox News, MAGA supporters in bright red shirts, and Hollywood fans loyal to Robert De Niro. At the plaintiff's table, Karoline Leavitt sat confidently in her striking pink suit, her eyes sharp and composed, ready to deliver the decisive blow. Across from her, De Niro, in a silver-gray suit, tried to maintain his usual confidence. But his clenched hands and wavering gaze betrayed his growing unease. After months of media debates and intense public scrutiny, the $800 million defamation lawsuit was now at its defining moment. The evidence presented by Leavitt's team would determine both their fates. Judge Margaret Ellis, with her stern demeanor and silver hair, banged the gavel to open the proceedings. "We are here to consider the complaint of Miss Karoline Leavitt against Mr. Robert De Niro and CBS," she announced, her voice echoing in the oak-paneled room. "Plaintiff, please proceed." Sylvia Martinez, Leavitt's lead attorney, stood with a confident gaze that swept over the audience. With a calm yet compelling voice, she began, "Your Honor, today we will prove that Mr. De Niro not only insulted Miss Leavitt, but he conducted a deliberate campaign to destroy her reputation and career. With the full support of his team and CBS, Martinez started with a video from the Spotlight segment. The large screen replayed the moment when De Niro called Leavitt a young puppet and a threat to democracy. The courtroom buzzed. Some nodded in agreement while others shook their heads in disapproval. Martinez paused the video, then turned to the judge. "This was not a spontaneous opinion," she stressed. "This was the start of a smear campaign, repeated across multiple platforms, from television to print, all aimed at harming Miss Leavitt." She continued presenting subsequent interviews, including one on CNN, where De Niro had called Leavitt more dangerous than Trump. Each statement landed with precision, causing De Niro to lower his head, his eyes avoiding the audience. "A MAGA," supporter whispered. "He knows he's wrong." Next, Martinez introduced a data chart prepared by social media expert Ethan Cole. On the screen, the chart showed over 12,000 posts using the hashtag Karoline Leavitt in the week following the spotlight. With 65% of them being negative. These posts ranged from mocking Leavitt's youth to accusing her of being unqualified. Martinez pointed to a specific post. "Leavitt is Trump's puppet, unfit to be press secretary." She turned to the audience. These words didn't appear out nowhere, she said firmly. They were a direct result of Mr. De Niro's statements, causing real harm to Miss Leavitt's reputation and career opportunities, including canceled media contracts. A reporter quickly scribbled notes while De Niro shifted in his seat, whispering to his lawyer, Victor Russo. Martinez, sensing De Niro's unease, then delivered the decisive blow. She presented an internal email from De Niro's team, leaked by a disgruntled staffer. The email appeared on the screen, and the courtroom fell silent as the text was read aloud. "Target her. She's young, vulnerable, and will make you stand out." Sent by De Niro's manager, Greg Palmer, an assistant had replied, "She's the perfect target for attention." Martinez turned to De Niro, her voice icy. "Mr. De Niro," she asked, "is this the personal opinion you claim, or a calculated plan? To destroy Miss Leavitt?" The moment De Niro opened his mouth, only a mumble escaped. I didn't know about that email." The audience was stunned, and some MAGA supporters clapped softly, whispering, "She's got him." Lawyer Russo stood, attempting to salvage the situation. "Your Honor, my client didn't directly write this email. He was just expressing political views protected by free speech." But Martinez wasn't about to let up. She quickly presented another bombshell, a video from a secretly recorded internal meeting of De Niro's team, filmed by the same staffer, who had leaked the email. In the video, De Niro could be heard telling Palmer, "I need to do something to keep my anti-Trump image. That girl, Leavitt, is a good target. Go after her." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Judge Ellis banged the gavel, demanding order, but the atmosphere had already shifted. De Niro, once an untouchable icon, now sat with his head bowed, hands covering his face, his eyes lost. A Hollywood fan whispered, "He's done." Martinez pressed on, calling De Niro to the witness stand. "Mr. De Niro," she asked, her voice calm but sharp, "do you have any evidence that Miss Leavitt is a threat to democracy as you claimed?" De Niro, his voice trembling, replied, "I just said what I felt. I think she works for a dangerous administration." Martinez immediately cut in. "Feelings aren't evidence, sir. Do you have documents, witnesses, or any basis for calling Miss Leavitt a puppet or dangerous?" De Niro fell silent, his eyes showing panic. After a long, tense minute, he finally shook his head. "No, I don't have any." The courtroom held its breath. Some MAGA supporters stood up, clapping and shouting, "Karoline, Karoline!" The judge banged her gavel, but the applause continued. Leavitt, seated at the plaintiff's table, didn't smile or show triumph. She maintained her composure, her eyes focused on Martinez as if knowing the battle wasn't over. Martinez concluded her presentation with a powerful statement. "Miss Leavitt is not just a victim of defamation. She is a young, talented woman attacked for daring to stand up for her beliefs. We ask the court to hold Mr. De Niro and CBS accountable for the harm they've caused." She sat down, and the courtroom erupted in murmurs. A Breitbart reporter quickly posted on X, "Leavitt just landed a fatal blow on De Niro. Justice for Karoline." Russo, De Niro's lawyer, tried to counter, but his arguments were weak against the mounting evidence. He called a producer from the Spotlight show to testify, hoping to prove the show didn't intend harm. However, under Martinez's cross-examination, the producer admitted that the team had deliberately invited both Leavitt and De Niro to create drama for TV. This admission only strengthened Leavitt's case, leaving Russo frustrated and shaking his head. At the defendant's table, De Niro looked like a man under siege. His eyes were vacant, his hands trembling. As the court recessed, the audience left the courtroom with a sense that the scales had tipped in Leavitt's favor. One person wrote, "Leavitt just made De Niro a laughingstock. She's the future of MAGA." Another shared a photo of Leavitt in the courtroom, captioned, "Conservative Queen takes down a Hollywood giant." Meanwhile, De Niro's fans tried to defend him, but their tone had weakened. One post read, "Bob just spoke the truth, but that email, it's hard to justify." When Judge Margaret Ellis's gavel sounded, concluding the dramatic trial, the courtroom at the New York Federal Courthouse erupted in whispers and stunned gazes. Karoline Leavitt, her suit still impeccable, left the courtroom with her lawyer, Sylvia Martinez. Her eyes showed not triumph but resolute determination. On the other hand, Robert De Niro, once Hollywood's untouchable icon, exited the court looking haggard, his shoulders slumped as if bearing the weight of defeat. Leavitt's irrefutable evidence had transformed him from an anti-Trump hero into a man crushed by his own words. Later, in a hotel room near the courthouse, De Niro sat dazed in an armchair, his vacant eyes staring out the window. His team, once confident that his fame would shield him, was now descending into chaos. His manager, Greg Palmer, responsible for the damaging leaked email, tried to reassure him. "Bob, we can still turn this around," Palmer said urgently. "We'll hold a press conference, explain this as a political attack." But De Niro, his voice hoarse, cut him off. "Explain how, Greg. They have the video, the email, everything. I look like a liar." His anger quickly shifted to despair. He rubbed his forehead, muttering, "I just wanted to speak the truth, but I went too far." Palmer bowed his head, unable to respond. Lawyer Victor Russo, who had failed to defend De Niro, stood in the corner, flipping through documents with a defeated expression. He whispered to an assistant, "We underestimated her. Leavitt hadn't just sued. She had put all of Hollywood on trial." The harsh reality was that De Niro hadn't only lost in court, he had lost the very aura that had defined his career. In his mind, images from the trial replayed. The secretly recorded video, Martinez's piercing questions, and the disappointed looks from the audience. He wondered if he would ever recover. All those years of opposing Trump, was it worth it? Leading to this moment? The public's reaction pushed De Niro deeper into the abyss. Social media, once a platform for his praise, was now overflowing with criticism. One user wrote, "De Niro dug his own grave with his oversized ego. Leavitt taught him a lesson." Another post included a photo of him leaving court with the caption, "From legend to loser." Loyal fans tried to defend him, but their voices were feeble. One fan wrote, "Bob just said what he believed, but that email, it's hard to forgive." De Niro's social media following plummeted, with thousands unfollowing within hours. Some longtime fans even declared, "I love De Niro in Taxi Driver, but this time he was wrong." Hollywood, where De Niro had once been an icon, began to turn its back. Directors and producers who once saw him as a prized asset now kept their distance. At a Los Angeles party, a filmmaker whispered, "Bob put himself on the line. No one wants to work with someone facing an $800 million lawsuit." An upcoming De Niro film project was postponed indefinitely, citing scheduling issues, but everyone knew the real reason. A Variety article analyzed, "Leavitt's lawsuit didn't just hurt De Niro, it's a warning to Hollywood, watch your words." This isolation left De Niro, accustomed to the spotlight, feeling abandoned in the dark. Meanwhile, Leavitt, though avoiding public appearances post-trial, became the center of admiration on social media, dominating every platform. Thousands of posts hailed her as the new conservative icon. One user wrote, "Karoline Leavitt, 27, just took down a Hollywood giant. This is MAGA's power." A young woman posted a video of Leavitt leading a press briefing captioned, "This is the woman Niro called useless, she's my idol." The MAGA community saw Leavitt's victory as a blow to the elite, with one post declaring, "Leavitt proved no one is above the law, not even Hollywood." This support helped her weather lingering attacks from opponents, like a post claiming she's just Trump's puppet suing for money. But such comments were quickly drowned out by waves of support. The media reflected this polarization. Breitbart published a glowing piece titled, "Karoline Leavitt, the woman who brought Hollywood to its knees," while the New York Times ran an analysis asking, "Leavitt's lawsuit, free speech or political revenge?" Even liberal outlets had to acknowledge the strength of Leavitt's evidence. An MSNBC commentator, though not a Leavitt supporter, said, "She played a perfect game. De Niro had no way out." Amid the storm, De Niro faced a profound personal crisis. He declined most interviews, only briefly appearing at a charity event where he looked older than his years, his eyes weary. In a private moment with a close friend, he confided, "I thought I was doing the right thing, but now I'm not sure." This regret, though belated, couldn't erase the losses he had suffered. His team, once a protective wall, was now unraveling. Palmer faced internal blame for the leaked email, and some assistants quietly sought new jobs, fearing the lawsuit would drag on. When the final verdict rang out in the New York federal courthouse, the room seemed to tremble with its significance. Judge Margaret Ellis declared that Robert De Niro and CBS must pay Karoline Leavitt $200 million for intentional defamation, a sum large enough to send a message. No one, not even a Hollywood star, can smear another without consequences. Leavitt stood beside her lawyer, Sylvia Martinez. Her eyes gleamed with pride, but there was no boastfulness. This ruling wasn't just a personal victory. It was a cultural turning point, solidifying Leavitt's position as a standard-bearer for the new conservative generation and shaking the foundations of Hollywood's power. For De Niro, the verdict was a devastating blow. His reputation, built on legendary roles in The Godfather and Raging Bull, was now tarnished by the lawsuit. Studios that had once viewed him as a treasure began to pull back. A major film project starring De Niro was canceled, citing financial difficulties. But everyone knew the lawsuit was the true cause. A studio executive privately told Deadline, "Working with Bob is a risk now. No one wants to be tied to a $200 million lawsuit." De Niro, once a symbol of defiance, was now described by the media as a man defeated by his own arrogance. A Wall Street Journal headline read, "From hero to defendant, De Niro's defeat by Leavitt." The public reacted fiercely. Those who had once admired De Niro now turned away, with tens of thousands unfollowing his social media accounts. An ex-fan posted, "De Niro destroyed himself. Leavitt just showed him the consequences." Another shared a photo of him leaving court with the caption, "Legend falls for messing with Karoline." Though some loyal fans tried to defend him, claiming he was politically trapped, their voices were drowned out by the wave of criticism. A bitter post from a former fan read, "I used to love De Niro, but he let his ego override reason." This downfall wasn't just personal. It was a warning to Hollywood stars. Their power was no longer absolute. The lawsuit's greatest impact was the shift in the media and Hollywood industries. Stars, once carefree and attacking politicians without fear of repercussions, now became more cautious. A famous comedian on a late-night show jokes, "Looks like no one's above the law anymore, even if you've been in The Godfather." The joke was a sign of the times, signaling that the power dynamics in Hollywood had changed forever. I'm not mentioning anyone named Karoline unless I want to end up in court. That's the new reality in Hollywood. Studios have started including clauses in contracts requiring artists to avoid making controversial statements. A producer told Variety, "This lawsuit was a wake-up call. Words now come with a high price." Social media platforms, the battleground for the lawsuit, solidified their role as a force shaping public opinion, surpassing traditional media. One post read, "Leavitt turned social media into a weapon. Hollywood's no longer king." The lawsuit also set a legal precedent. Conservative politicians, from local Congress members to governors, began considering lawsuits against the media for defamation. A Texas lawyer told AP, "Leavitt opened a new path. We're seeing more similar lawsuits." This raised concerns in the media, with an Atlantic editor writing, "Leavitt's victory could chill press freedom." But for MAGA supporters, it was a triumph of justice. One post declared, "Leavitt gave us the tools to fight back against the enemy." In the glow of victory, Leavitt remained humble. She returned to her White House duties, leading press briefings with growing confidence. Letters from supporters, from Iowa farmers to Florida students, poured in, praising her for standing up to power. One letter read, "Miss Karoline, you gave me the courage to defend my beliefs." Leavitt, though exhausted from a demanding schedule and motherhood, felt empowered. In a private moment, she told Martinez, "I didn't do this for fame. I did it for those who believe in me." Martinez smiled, replying, "You did more than that. You changed the game." Karoline Leavitt's victory over Robert De Niro wasn't just a legal ruling. It was a spark igniting a new administration. At 27, she etched her name into history as a symbol of courage, turning an $800 million defamation lawsuit into a manifesto for the conservative generation. Her legacy extended beyond the briefing room, reshaping how America views power and accountability. Leavitt inspired millions, especially young women and conservatives who felt overwhelmed by the media. Girls in small towns began entering politics, modeling themselves after her. An Alabama student wrote, "Karoline showed me I can take on anyone, no matter how powerful." Conservative organizations hailed her as a trailblazer, even launching workshops named The Leavitt Spirit to encourage youth involvement. Her influence spread through speeches where she emphasized, "Your beliefs are worth defending, no matter who the enemy is." Leavitt's legal influence was undeniable. The lawsuit paved the way for conservative politicians to file defamation suits, sparking a wave now known as the Leavitt effect. A Florida lawyer said, "She gave us a roadmap to fight injustice." While some worried about press freedom, her supporters argued that she restored fairness. One post declared, "Karoline proved the law belongs to everyone, not just the elite." Leavitt's legacy is an unquenchable flame, inspiring a generation to challenge power. She didn't just defeat De Niro, she rewrote the rules, laying the foundation for an America where conservative voices resonate far and wide. The story of Karoline Leavitt's legal triumph over Robert De Niro reflects the current social and political tensions in the United States, where polarization between conservative and liberal views, coupled with the power of media and social media, shapes public discourse. In the story, Leavitt, a young and loyal Trump press secretary, used irrefutable evidence, such as a leaked email from De Niro's team and social media posts, to prove his intent to defame her, ultimately winning an $800 million defamation lawsuit. The confrontation on the spotlight and De Niro's downfall in court highlight the power of accountability, especially when facing influential figures like Hollywood stars. The strong support from the MAGA community on social media and the public's turning against De Niro reflect how social media, particularly X, can amplify or destroy reputations in an instant. Leavitt's legacy, as described in Part 8, underscores the ability of a young, underestimated individual to change the game through persistence and strategy. The lesson for real life is that in today's United States, where debates on platforms like X can escalate rapidly, this story teaches us the importance of using words carefully and standing up to defend one's reputation when wronged. Like De Niro, careless words can lead to severe consequences, especially in an era of fast-spreading information. Learn from Leavitt. Don't react emotionally. Gather evidence, seek community support, and act strategically. Whether young or less powerful, persistence and belief in your worth, as Leavitt showed in her pink suit, can help you confront any giant in a polarized society. Build your voice with truth and accountability, because words not only shape you, but can also change the world. Please like and subscribe to support Karoline Leavitt's journey in changing the game against Hollywood's elite. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video to explore more inspiring stories.